Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Robin Carter with Robin's Creations. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator out of Flower Mound, Texas, and today I'm here to share a 12 by 12 one-sheet wonder cards for you. I'm going to kind of call them the wow one-sheet wonders because I'm not a real simple card maker. I like to dress mine up a little bit, so you'll see those as we get going. I did ask in my last videos if you would be interested in like seeing a one sheet wonder, and I had many of you say yes, you love one sheet wonders. So I'm going to do one for you today. We're going to kind of do them in parts because this is going to be a long video, so make sure you go grab a nice something to drink, and if you want to craft along with me, feel free to pause and restart the video as you need to get your materials cut. I have pre-cut those to help me come along. It did take me quite a bit of time. So just know this is going to be a great class for you to get 14 beautiful cards from one sheet of designer series plus additional card stock. So I'm going to share, I've done two. So when I finish cutting the one we're working on, I'll show you the other two. It works for many different designer series paper. So just pick one that either has flowers or something real pretty to dress up your cards. So, but before we get started, let me switch to hands down and share some things with you as far as Paper Pumpkin goes, because a lot of you watch me because of Paper Pumpkin. Okay, so going on now is the subscription period for the December Paper Pumpkin Kit. Now also, let's see, today is September 5th, and going on now is a great prepaid, they're calling it Cyber Monday special for Paper Pumpkin subscriptions. They are 25% off. So it is the best deal I've seen in a long time. So you can purchase a 3, 6, or 12-month subscription. Just know that if you purchase that today or before the sale ends or anytime, you are going to get this kit so long as you subscribe by December 10th. Okay, so there's no canceling that. If you already have a prepaid that you're working on and you don't want two kits, you may want to go in and to your previous prepaid and say skip. And it should say your next kit is January. So just know you're going to have to manage both of those if you do purchase the prepaid. I've kind of sent a long email to my existing Paper Pumpkin subscribers explaining that to you. But if you are new and you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I would be glad to help you with that. If you are a month-to-month subscriber and want to switch to the prepaid, know that you need to probably best to cancel. I hate to say cancel your month to month, but otherwise you're going to have to manage that each month. I was kind of hoping that it would just take over your month to month, but it comes to find out you need to cancel your month to month if you are purchasing a prepaid so you don't get two or you have to manage it each month. So I hope that makes sense to you. Also remember to make sure your demonstrator is selected whenever you subscribe because it's not necessarily the same demonstrator as you may have for your general shopping. So be sure and give your demonstrator support with that. Okay, I just like to point all those things out. Now here is some white paper, which I'm going to cut first for you. Now today's cards, we're not going to do sentiments. You can go through your labels and pick a sentiment you want, or you may want to leave them blank. That way you have a card ready to go for a sentiment for whatever occasion you would like. Today I'm going to be using the Celebratory Sips Designer Series paper. Now this is still current and so are the stamps and dies, and by the way they are on the last chance list with some great savings. So one reason I picked this set of Designer Series paper is because there's two kind of floral sets that don't necessarily go with Celebratory Sips. Okay, the back is just some patterned solid color paper, but you know the other Designer Series paper are more meant for the cute little drinks and cups and things to go in your kit. But you may be like, okay, I have Celebratory Sips and I really don't know what to do with these two. So I'm going to do a one sheet wonder using those. Now, like I said, this pattern works for just about any of the any pack, and I'll show you one I did with let's see, the last celebration paper that we were able to get, and I have another one done with, I think it was the Airy, the one with the birds on it. So I'll be able to show you those. But I have my iPad here with all my cut guides so that we can, I'll have those handy here beside me. Now the printout of this, it did take me quite a bit of time to do the actual PDF showing pictures and measurements and all of that. So that is going to be my bonus gift to you with any $50 purchase between December, and I'm going to run it through January as well. Let's cut our white paper first. So this is going to be for a lot of layers, and you may want to write on the back of these which card it's for. I have that here. Let me get my pretty designer series paper to the side so I don't mess it up any. I have my trimmer here. Let me kind of do it sideways so you can see the whole thing. So I have a white sheet of paper here, and we're going to start by cut first vertically at 4 3/8. So there's 4, go to the 2 before the 4 1/2. Okay, that's 4 3/8. So we want to cut that way. Okay, and then this left side, you're going to want to cut it at 4 7/8, and this is going to be for card 1. Okay, so you can have a pencil or something and write real lightly, like on the back, card 1. Okay, set that aside. Now I'm going to take the right hand side that we cut off, and this should be 4 1/8 already, which it is. So now we need one at, let's see, 3 3/8. 1, 2, 3. Now this one is for card 8. Okay, so put card 8 on that one. Then we need another one at 5/8, 2 5/8. Okay, this is card 9. Set that aside, and then we would need one at 2 1/4. All of this will make sense when we get to making them, but I kind of did a cut guide here to help try to save cardstock, and that's card 12. Okay, and another one at 2 1/8 by 4 1/8. Okay, and this is card 14. Okay, set that aside. You have another scrap you can do sentiments with, and then you need another sheet of white paper. Okay, I have those back here for me. Okay, so we're going to first cut this at 4 5/8. So 4, 1, 2, so it's 2 past the 5 1/2 little marks on our Stampin' Up! Trimmer. Okay, so cut that with confidence. I'm going to set the right hand side here, and we're going to work with this left hand side. So the first cut I'm going to make is 3 1/4. Okay, then we're going to take that piece and cut them at 2 1/8, and you're going to do 2 of those from this top part. Okay, so let's get 2 1/8. Whoops, okay, now these are for 12 and 13. So if you want to write card 12 and card 13. Okay, so those are there. Another little scrap if you want to put a sentiment on that. And then this next largest part we're going to cut at 5 3/8. Okay, so 5 and 1, 2, 3. Okay, after we cut this white, we're going to cut the designer series paper for this first 5 cards. Okay, then we need these at 2 1/4, and we need 2 of these. Okay. Okay, that one's probably too skinny for any sentiment, so you can just trash that one. And these are for cards 10 and 11. Okay, And then we have this little piece left here. We need it to be make sure it's still, let's cut it to 4 1/8 wide. And again, another scrap. And then you're going to want 2 1/4 this way. Okay. Another little skinny strip there. And this is card 13. Okay, now the right hand side, these should already be 3 7/8 inch wide. Pretty good there. Okay, so we're going to cut it at 2 5/8. This is card 3. Now I already have these cut in the little envelopes, but I will make another set for myself using these. But I thought I would cut these for you to show you kind of what to do to keep it organized. Now we're here to card 4 and 2 5/8. So these are, you need 3 of them at 2 5/8 is what I'm cutting from this side. Okay, flip it over. Card 5, and I'd press lightly with your pencil in case you need to flip it over and use the other side. And then this one is 2 3/8. 1 2 3. Okay, and another scrap that you can set over on your right hand side for sentiments. And this last one we cut is for card number 2. So if you wanted to put all of these in little envelopes, like my favorite things that I like to organize my supplies, now is your time to do that. But now we need to cut our designer series paper. Now, just so I don't lose all my pieces, I'm going to start with the top 5, which is going to use the top part of this 12 by 12 paper. Isn't it pretty? So mind the direction that your paper goes, like my flowers are going up vertically. Okay, so this is going to be my top. And I'm going to turn it to where my pieces are going this way, because this is going to be my top. And I'm cutting this at 3 7/5. Okay. So cut that at 3 7/5. I'm going to set my designer series paper. Well, guess what? I didn't have my blade all the way down because I have too many blades on my thing. Let me get out my scoring blade and put that back in its track. And cut again. Okay, so 3 7/5. Okay, we'll cut the next when we get to the next set. Now for our first 5 cards, so this is 3 7/5 tall. You're going to want to cut this one at 2.25. Okay, this is for card 1. Okay, so I'm not going to write on the back. I'm just going to know that's card 1. I'm going to set them here. Another one at 2.25. Okay, that's card 2. I'm going to turn them upside down so that they're in order. One at 2.5. Okay, another one at 2.5. And that should leave one at 2.5. Okay, good. Okay, so pretty easy cuts there. And now let's get started making those pretty cards. By the way, if you are, I forgot to say this, if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would really appreciate your subscription. Okay, so we're going to get started with card 1. I'm going to flip these over so they're ready to go. Now, I tried to keep the supplies pretty basic. So I'm using a lot of white. So that's a thick white card base. And then white layers to go. Let me set my finished cards that I'm going to show you at the end. It's really interesting how the different designer series paper looks so different. Now, I did look on the back of my papers. And what coordinates with it is Blackberry Bliss and Bubble Bath I'll be using. So let me just start with this. So you're going to need a lot of embossed layers if you really want to dress yours up. This is just a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 piece of white paper that I've embossed. Now, go through your supplies. I kind of took this opportunity to use those supplies, which I've spent good hard money on. So I want you to do the same. Pull out retired ones, use whatever you like. This one is the Tasteful Textile embossing folder that I'm using there. This is the Textured Notes dies. It's the second largest one. Let me switch to my scroll down my iPad to my directions. Yes, so this is the second largest Textured Notes die in Blackberry Bliss. Now, if you don't have this, look for your deckled rectangles, maybe even your stitched rectangles, and you're going to want to die, and I'm going to measure these for you so that if you don't have these, you could use other dies, or you could just cut plain paper. Okay, so this would be about 3 1/4 by 4 5/8, it looks like. Where's my eighths down here? Pretty close to 475. I'd go ahead and do 475 if you're just cutting plain layers. So that's going to be for a layer here. And then one thing I got kind of from Gail Ellis. She's in Australia. She's a fabulous designer, and she started putting like layers of textured layers inside these rather than just plain white. So I've kind of stole that from her as far as a design. So take whatever you're finished with, and then you're going to want to cut it. Let's see, mine is 2 7/8. Just smaller, maybe by 1 1/8, so that it fits inside your rectangle. But this is for the Textured Notes, and it measures. It's actually one of our layers that we cut for card 1. Mine's just not layered. Let me find it over here. So we did cut those in our cutting guide. So there's 2, 5 we'll use, 4 and 5, 3. Of course, 1 I think was from the first sheet. Yeah, card 1 and 1. So we did cut those, okay, previously. So you can either leave that plain or you can emboss it. I chose to emboss it, okay. So we're going to adhere that to this Textured Notes panel right here. And I'm going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue. Okay, then we have that there. We can go ahead and adhere this down to our thick white card base. Okay, I do the liquid glue so I have wiggle room. I think I did invest in a guillotine cutter for my card bases because I make so many and it dulls those other blades so quickly that, and the guillotine I can do really fast. So those are pretty even, but that one is longer, so it's going to be on the top. Okay, we have our textured note, and then I have another piece of coordinating cardstock that is 2 3/8 by 3 7/8. Okay, and that's what you're going to use your designer series paper on right there. Making sure I'm doing it right. I'm going to put that at the bottom. That's some little boo-boo. Okay. So we're going to put our designer series paper for card 1 that we cut on that. Okay, so that's our front layer. And like I said, you can put ribbon around this if you want. You can leave it plain. Kind of up to you. So these cards are going to be for you to do as you like. I'm going to just tie a quick little knot bow. I would use my ribbon saving technique, but there's not going to be much saved. And I'll share that later if we do a larger piece of paper. Need a little larger there. All right, So across, much like shoes, and I'm just going to put that in the middle. Okay, so that's like a knot rather than a bow. And then we have, you can scoot this, when we do it like that, then we can scoot it up or down to fit any sentiment we might want. Now I like to have slanted ends. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to put this first layer down flat. Try to center it best you can with your eyes. If you really want to make sure things are straight, you can get out a T-ruler, and I did pretty good. Make sure that layer is straight. And then this layer we're going to put on with dimensionals. So get some your dimensionals, mini or big, it doesn't really matter. Got some minis here. And you want to make sure it's supported in the center there. So make sure you get plenty of those. I trimmed my nails, so I'm going to see if I can still get the backings off like I usually do. And this one broke actually. You'll have a lot of dimensional back trash on your desktop or floor, wherever you put them, and you can just grab the vacuum cleaner when you're done to pick them all up. Okay, I'm going to try the take your pick tool because I'm having a hard time with my cut. Well, this is not the take your pick tool. It's just another one that I've had since I started crafting, and a lot of times you can just poke it and lift off just the backing. Okay, that was faster. And then center this. Okay, and then you can put your sentiment wherever you want, here or here, like one of these little scrap pieces we have. Let me show you some finished ones. So this one is with the celebration paper we have. And this is the one I did with the Flight and Airy. The name of that finally came to me. So look at the difference it makes just in switching papers there. So it does work with quite a few patterns, this does. So that is card 1, and now we can move to card 2. Okay, card 2. Again, I kept it simple, a thick white card base. Okay, another embossed layer. Now this is like the Parisian something. Like I said, I really liked pulling into my retired items and using those. Now any would work. And then also know, which I'm going to show you at the end of this, if you have some designer series paper that's not too busy but coordinates with your cards, you can do that. So this one, I took the 3rd largest textured note. Let me get my iPad down to the things needed for it. So we have our embossed layer that's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and we can go ahead and glue that down. Okay, the good thing is you guys will have ad breaks, and the good news is you can go cut this stuff during the ad break if you need to. Okay, so I'm going to glue that down. We have our 3rd largest textured notes. Now for those of you that don't have die cuts or want to use these, you need something about 275 this way by 4 1/4 that way. So you could just cut your piece there. Now this is card 2. All right, and then I have a piece of bubble bath. I thought those were real pretty together, and it was a coordinating color. So this, I just made it like 1/4 inch bigger than this, which is 4 1/2 by 3. Okay, so we're going to put this behind here. I dress these up by just adding a lot of layers. Make sure that's the back side. And coordinating colors. So that's going to go there. Get that centered before I set it down to dry. Okay, and then we do have the white piece cut by card 2. See, that's our card 2 that we did. And that's going to go there. And we're going to put our designer series paper on to that white piece. I think that's what I thought we were going to do in card 1, but we did not. So you have your designer series paper and your white piece that we cut that you put card number 2 on the back. So adhere that down. Now white on white, I sometimes have a hard time seeing with my white background. So I'm going to get out my silicone mat, I think, so that I have a little something different to contrast the color of white to get it straight. All right, give that a quick rub, and then we're going to adhere this to here. You like how that all goes together? I do even like the little white separation between the colors. Helps it to pop a little bit. Okay, real simple card here. And we're going to put this on with dimensionals. Got some here that are the normal big ones that I've cut in half. So when I cut these, I cut the flat little part there. We'll use lots of dimensionals in these cards, but you're going to have 14 pretty good layered cards when we're done with this. So this one was simple, but yet I think still very pretty with all the different layers. I really like those colors together. Now let me show you the finished ones I have done already. Now this is an example of, I had some, this is actually Perfect Plum. It was an old color that I thought went pretty well with that. And so that's what I used. And then here's my Flight and Airy one. And so, like I said, embellish these as you would like. I put a butterfly on that one. I did also put some coordinating ribbon, some bling there. This one is Shy Shamrock, and I used actually Perfect Plum, even though I think it was Blackberry Bliss and stuff. And then here is our other one. So you can add embellishments, your sentiment, etc. And since we didn't put ribbon, if you wanted to put your ribbon like below your sentiment, like this one here, that would be a good option. So what do you guys think about that? Card 3, again, you're going to have your thick white card base. Okay, let me feel that one. I could kind of see it goes that way. The basic one with just a embossed layer, okay, would be something like, this is an Old Country Floral. Okay, you can use that one. If you want to, you can get out some DSP. So I found some DSP that I liked, but know that if you don't, it looks perfectly fine with just that. Now here is another layer of Blackberry Bliss. Okay, it's the finished size is 3 1/4 by 4 1/8. Okay, and then we can get out our designer series paper for number 3. Now, if your paper goes that way, it's perfectly fine to do it this way. Okay, some of mine that are finished are vertical cards, but know that you can do them, or horizontal cards, you can do them vertically as well. All right, so put that on your white piece. I need my silicone mat back. If you're like me, you probably have, you might have more DSP than you think you could ever use. But I still find that I love different ones, and I still purchase different ones. So that we're going to put here on this layer. Now this scallop border is from the hand pin dies, but any border die you might have, like the most recent ones, just retired. And then if you have any skinny ribbon, you can dress up the side of it. I have this, I think I've told everyone, I collect ribbon when it's on the clearance rack, and especially whites and things like that, or neutral colors that I can use anytime. So we can just kind of do a cross like that, just to dress it up a little bit. And then let's use tear and tape to make sure that's good and down in the back. I'm going to pick that up real quick and get it lined up just on the other side of the stitching. Oh, this is from the scalloped contour dies. Or no, this is the hand pinned. I do use the scallop contour dies. Those were some of my favorites, and there's just really not current pretty scalloped dies. I think the postage stamp looking ones would work. That kind of wasn't my style, so I stick to the contour dies. It's not very good of a business for my demonstratorship to use retired stuff as far as getting new purchases, but I like to use what I have, and I know you do too. Okay, so there is that card. Again, you can do a sentiment. So I'm not going to glue these together. This would go on with dimensionals. Isn't that pretty? So this is from the Bright and Beautiful. It's one of the bubble bath colors, but there would be that one. If you don't have coordinating cardstock and just want to do a white embossed layer, that's just as pretty. So let me show you my finished ones. This one, I use some of the In Color Designer Series paper of the Shy Shamrock, the In Colors. This is from, oh, I can't think of all the names. I used a lot of different retired stuff to dress up my cards and sentiment and bling and ribbon. And then this one is also vertical with the Flight and Airy. I'm always here for you. And by the way, one of my, in case you've missed this stamp set, this is current. It didn't say last chance, but it's cling, so it's probably going to be retiring soon. It's called The Right Words, and I love a bunch of these sentiments in here. I did make a cut file. It's on my Etsy shop of labels for this. It has some great sentiments in there as well. So here's these 3 cards. Let me kind of lay them out like you would see them. All 3 different ones. So there is that one. Do you like all the different designs? Okay, there's lots of possibilities with these. Okay, card 4 already. Now I was going to do this in like part 1, part 2. My sideline or downline, she said just do them all one, because I would rather pause and restart than have to try to go find your other video. So I'm going to do this all as one. I know it's going to be long, but like I said, you can start and stop when you need to. Okay, so this is a white card base. Okay, and then I'm going to use a white textured embossing foldered layer that's 4 1/8. I did bring in the scallop contour dies, but if you don't have these, any die that measures like 3 1/8 by 4 1/2, okay? And then I have a white layer that's going to go there, and our piece number 4 of Designer Series paper to go inside that. So your white piece is the one we cut for 4. Any die that would just add a layer on top of that, or you can just cut a rectangle if coordinating cardstock. All right, the white on white again really messes with my eyes with the white background. Okay, put that on our scallop contour die. once you do all the cutting, that's the hardest part. And then like I went and embossed a whole bunch of different layers just so I could select from those and use those. Now, when I cut this piece that I used on card 2, it was a 6x6 piece of paper. So I had some scrap left, right? I think this was more like here or something like that. Anyway, I thought, you know what? I can put that down below this if I want to. And that way I'm not wasting as much of these little strips. So that's where that came from. Not a necessary step, but like I said, since I had that left over, I decided I might use those on this. So let me put this down. This is another part of those Bright and Beautiful. Had some bubble bath in there. And I hadn't used a lot of that cardstock, so I'm trying to use more of my cardstock these days. So it doesn't just sit on my desk or in my shelves. Okay, so since I did that, I am going to add some ribbon across that. Again, this is just to fancy it up more. If you just do the rectangle part, it's still pretty, and I'll show you my finished ones with that as well. All right, so I'm just going to run this across where it meets that white part. Tape it down. Tape this down. Now I also have the same thing for a 6x6 to make 5 cards. I can do that one next until the paper pumpkin comes in for December, or I guess, yes, it would be December. I think it's going to be a great one, guys, so don't miss this one, even if you just sign up month to month. Okay, now here's your tip when you put these down. So I don't want to put my dimensionals just on this. I want it to make sure I get not on the ribbon. So the middle parts I'm going to put there, and then I am going to put it on the tops. I had a lot of fun digging into my old supplies because I only buy what I really like, okay, that I know I want to keep. So I don't get a whole bunch of credits. So I do have to spend my own money. Okay. And then let's put that down. I'm really liking that paper. Okay, so then a sentiment, ribbon, etc. And let me show you the ones I finished already. So here's with the flight and airy. I know it's in one of my little sleeves. And I did a little ribbon, a little floral thing, a little butterfly I had, some like dewdrops. And this one I embossed a coordinating cardstock rather than white. So just know those are all possibilities. And here's the one with the celebration paper from last year. Again, I added the scrap of the Shy Shamrock that I used in my other one there. And I also put it below the sentiment. So that's another way you can use your little bitty scrap. So I hope you like those. Let me give you a closer look. Okay, that's card 4. And we're already to card 5. Okay, card 5, I used the scallop contour dies again. I know a lot of you guys have this, and I hope you appreciate bringing back some goodie and oldies. Okay, and then I did do that in Bubble Bath. Now, this is the largest scallop contour die, but if you're just using something else, it'd be like 3 7/8 by 5 1/4. Okay, and that's in Bubble Bath. This is another pattern I kind of got from Gail Ellis out of Australia. So she put a embossed piece there inside this piece, and I really like that. And that is at 4 1/2 by 3 1/4. And I embossed that with the Tasteful Textile. So I'm gonna glue this down inside there. Again, this is a just to dressy it up. You could just go with that plain white inside, but I really liked all the different layered look. Okay, and then we're going to put that on our thick white card base. I haven't used Bubble Bath a lot, and it was kind of fun bringing it in. It's nice and cheery. It kind of matches my, it coordinates with my shirt. I can't say it matches, but I didn't plan that. Just it happened to be that. So put that on there, center it up. Okay, and then we have our 5 designer series paper. Okay, so we have a coordinating piece, which happens to be Blackberry Bliss, and it is at 4 and a half. That's, my directions are wrong. I'll fix those. But anyway, this piece is 4 1/8 by 2 7/8, or excuse me, yeah, 2 5/8. So something smaller. That's our white piece that we cut. So we don't even have to measure that, because you'd grab your one for card 5, like it's right here. Okay, so I did a coordinating piece of cardstock just a little bit bigger than that. Let's glue this down. Oh, I know, I'm reading this layer on my directions. It's kind of hard to glue work and read my directions and try to keep you guys entertained. Now this one, it must just have cut just a little bit wider. So if you want to get that more correct, you can shave off just a hair of it. If your cutting guide is a little off, let's hope I can get that. Just a sliver. And also, depending on what dies you use, you may have to kind of trim them down so they fit exactly like you like them. Okay, so far we've only trashed a little sliver, but there will be just little slivers of waste of your DSP, but not a lot. That's also what I tried to do, is not have a lot of waste. Okay, let's put that on there. And then this is going to go on with dimensionals. I'm not going to take my dimensionals off because I'm probably going to add a layer of ribbon across that. Okay, just to dress it up. I'll go ahead and do that now so you guys can see what it looks like with just basic white ribbon. I think there is some fuzzy edged white ribbon that was on the online store. That there. This there. So then you just need sentiments, embellishments, whatever you have in your stash to dress those up. So let me show you my other 2. This is with the Flight and Airy. I did bring in my brilliant butterflies to put kind of in the sky there. And I had some coordinating ribbon. I used one of my cut file sentiments, added a little flower. There's no bling. I think that one needs bling. Here's the one with last year's celebration paper. It was fun bringing in the Shy Shamrock with that. And then this is the one with the Sips paper. All right, that's card 5. So let's put all this away, and now we get to cut the next layer to do our other cards. Our next layer of DSP. Get that out of the way and get back to my cut guide of my DSP. Okay, so we have our DSP. Again, you want the pattern to go up like this because this is going to be the vertical and my flowers are going that way. So you're going to want to cut this at 4, and you should have like 4 1/4 left. Okay, so save that. That'll be our last piece that we cut. And this one is 4 tall. So we're going to want to cut at 2.5. Okay, we're kind of going to work backwards. This is going to be for card 9. Actually, this is going to be cards 5 through 9. All right, so 2.5. Card 9. Card 8 is 3.25 by 4. And then another 3.25 by 4. Okay, we should have 3 inches left. And you're going to want to cut these into 1-inch pieces. Now, depending on how you line up your cutter, you might have little slivers left. But I'm going to try to do 1-inch squares or strips at the same mark. Okay, so this one, I'm afraid to cut that. I'm afraid it's going to get a little, there. Just work fast and you'll get a little sliver left. It kind of depends on where you put your paper on your mark if you're going to have these little slivers left over. Okay, so this is card 6. Okay, and when you cut it, keep your pieces kind of together of how they flowed. There we go, like that. And let me get out my ones I already made. Card 6. Again, another thick white card base. And I'm going to put the side that is a hair bigger. A coordinating piece of cardstock. Now this is 3.5 by 4.25. And then simply your DSP. So this one is real simple. Did I not have a embossed piece in my folder? So this is the layered floral 3D embossing folder. Let's put that down on that. Again, embossing folders just really dress up your cards in themselves. I realize you do have to have the large cut and emboss machine, but these really add so much to your card, and it's so simple. And the embossing folders themselves are a good buy at $10. I've yet to have one not work anymore. So they're not consumable necessarily unless you put it in wrong. Okay, so now the hardest part here is putting these equally. So I'm going to use my grid paper here and set my coordinating cardstock right where the 0 is the center on my grid sheet. And I'm going to take my center piece, put some liquid glue on it, and then I can go by the hash marks here. It should be on the half and down here on the half. And then I just have to worry about the height. And again, if you have a T ruler and want to make sure that's straight, go ahead. And then while it's still kind of liquidy, I make sure that that's going to work. And so now I can glue my left and right sides down. And just look for equal spacing there. Anyway, that's the way I like to do strips, is do the center one first, and then that way I can do the left and right and look for equal spacing there. Okay. I've thought about, and I'll get your suggestion, I thought about making a Facebook group, I don't know, called Robin's Creations Share. And then you guys can share with me if you follow my my alternatives for paper pumpkin and like this cut file, my one sheet wonder. You could share your designs because I really would love to see yours. All right, so then I'm going to put this up on dimensionals. I put everything up on dimensionals. So if it's a question of do I do dimensionals or not, my answer is always add dimensionals. Okay, these are coming off pretty easy. All right, now if you wanted to add ribbon, do it before you put it down. So let me put some ribbon here. I really wish they had more of our colors, like a bubble. I mean, you know, and they used to carry more of the core colored in ribbon. That was years and years ago, but I'll be happy with just white. Now you can dye your ribbon. I know you can dye it with blends. I've yet to do that. I just stick with the white. I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed in the Black Friday sale. The paper sold out like, I think, before I even was able to look at it. And the ink refills was just the bundles. And those were sold out at 6 a.m. my time when I looked. So anyway, that's just, you know, I guess it is like Black Friday. The old days, you had to get up and be in line at the stores, right? So if you stayed up and was able to take advantage of that, good for you. I'm happy you got those great deals. Okay, so there is card number 6. Again, just a sentiment, some embellishments, whatever you want to dress it up with. And here's my Flight and Airy card. This was a coordinating color of the vines. Okay, and then here is my celebration paper. I really like that little bow. Okay, so there you go. That is card number 6. Okay, card 7 is coming up. All right, card 7's an easy one. Simple, simple. Okay, so we have a thick white card base. And I did a coordinating color. This is that friendship die that made those little stitchings. But if you just wanted to use an embossing folder, that would work as well. You could use white on this. I just did a coordinating color. Okay, and then you need a piece of coordinating cardstock that measures 3 3/8 by 4 1/8. Okay, and then this will use our bigger piece of designer series paper. Okay, and then some ribbon. Tear and tape. By the way, I'm also thinking of next year doing what I'm going to call throwback videos, because I have so many products. Things are turning over so fast that I don't have much time to work with them to do a video for you guys because they retire. And I know some of my downline is like, yes, please, because same thing is happening to them. And you may have supplies you want to get out and, you know, use them because you spent your good money on them. So let me know if that's something you'd be interested with. I know I won't have time in the holidays to do one of those, but maybe in the new year I can start doing some of those using some retired bundles and such. Okay, just put some dimensionals on there and a real simple card there. I'll adhere that down later so we can move along, but let me show you my ones I did. Now this one, I did basic beige in the background. I gotta say, I'm not really fond of that one. I probably could take those off dimensional since they're on dimensionals and put it on a better color piece of paper or just white. Okay, that's with the Flight and Airy. And then I did miscut my celebration paper, so I don't have one to share of that one, but that's card number 6. All right, I on every one of these, I use a thick white card base. So just cut you 14 thick white card bases. Use a variety of embossing folders. Now this is where it's going to get tricky because my DSP, it does go this way. Okay, so this uses your DSP that's 4 by 3 1/4. Now, my first one I did with the flight and airy, it was kind of a random pattern and did not necessarily have a direction. Now this paper has a direction, so I am going to need to trim my layer down because it's not going to look right going that way. So I'm going to use it this way, and I did use the hand pinned border on that. So I'm just going to trim this off. I am going to leave room for a little bit of ribbon. Actually, maybe I'll go ahead and do that and then trim afterwards. So where's my skinny white ribbon? You know, you could, in place of ribbon, you could just put a piece of cardstock or something down to add layers to your designs. That's always an option. You get my little pieces of tear and tape already. Yeah, I had a boo-boo. I don't know what I cut it on either. I just noticed it one day. I was like, oh, probably a paper cut. And then let's put our DSP down. So I like showing these in case you're using a one-directional card or designer series paper as well, so that you can alter them. There's all kinds of ways you could alter these. Oh, I forgot to put it on the white. On the white first. Even adding just the white layer really adds it just adds so much. It helps your designer series paper to stand out. And since I have a layer already on there, it's going to be hard to get this centered of glue, a layer of glue. Okay, much better. The silicone mat helps a lot. And then we're going to glue this onto that. Okay, and now I'm just going to trim like 1/4 of an inch of that off. So know that it's in our track. Let me get this more in screen there. So you can eye where you need to cut kind of based on the track. So there, that was a nice equal border there. So my final piece here, I'll measure this in case you already know yours is going that direction. It's almost 4. It is pretty much 4 by 4 1/4. Let's put our embossed layer down. You know, often this one's not very patterned, but I do kind of recommend using the bottle when you're putting your embossed layers down because the glue will go down into the grooves. Now, if yours goes vertical, you'll want your whole embossed piece to cover it because that's going to be like side to side. And you'll see when I show you my finished ones. It almost goes all the way across the side. Put some dimensionals down. And I'll save putting it on there because I knew this would go very long, making 14 cards. Okay, so that one would go like that. You could put your sentiment wherever, down here if you wanted to. Add some butterflies. Let me get my finished cards of those for you. So this is the flight and airy one I did, and you can see it didn't matter whether it was vertical or horizontal. So this one was horizontal piece there. And the way your paper went. So I couldn't have turned mine that way. It would be, it would look very odd. I guess I could have done it like that, but you know, I still can if I want to do it like that to the side and do a sentiment. Up to you how you design yours. Okay, and again, like I said, I miscut my celebration paper, so I don't always have one like that. Okay, what are we up to? Card 9, I believe. This is pretty much the same pattern, just a little bit different. Okay, we have our thick white card base and a piece of coordinating cardstock that measures 3 by 4 1/8. Okay, a white piece that's just that we cut earlier with our white cutting guide, an embossed piece, and of course our designer series paper. So this one's going to be pretty simple too, but I'm going to have to make this one a vertical card or turn it this way and work at it that way. We'll see what I do when I'm finished. Okay, so we have a nice layered piece there. Now you can either do this one like this, okay, or you can put it like this, okay, and do sentiments, embellishments. Let me show you the finished cards. I do have both of them for this one. I have the Flight and Airy, and like I said, its pattern didn't matter, so I was able to put it down at the bottom and do a top piece like that. And this one was even kind of non-directional, and I dressed it up with some of my stuff in my supplies and a sentiment there and some embellishment, some bling. So like I said, you get to decide what kind of card you want to make with your piece there. Okay, that's 1 through 9. Now we get to cut our last piece of DSP. So I have that here. I have my trimmer. All right, let me put this sideways so you guys can see. Okay, so we're going to cut this at 5 1/4. By the way, so your last piece should be 4 1/4 tall. Okay, so we're going to cut this at 5 1/4. Got to get it over that little mark there. I usually get right over the top of it, so that could be why my measurements are off. Now this 5 1/4 piece, we're going to turn it vertically and cut it in half at 2 1/8. Okay, so these are for cards 10 and 11. They're going to be pretty much identical cards. Then we're going to cut this at 4 inches. And again, we're going to cut this in half at 2 1/8. Turning it. Hope that's right. Okay, and then our last piece here, we need to cut it to 4 1/8 tall. I would do that first, so they're all the same. So, you know, that's your little bit of trash. I think we can get rid of that. And then we're going to cut these into 1 3/8 each. So 1 2 3/8. Again, my cuts must have been just a little bit off. So to make this one 1 3/8, I need to cut just a sliver there. And I think it even fell down on my track. But those should be equal. All right, that is all our cutting. Okay, let's go ahead and make these both at the same time. 10 and 11. So you're going to need 2 thick white card bases, some embossed pieces. Okay, this one has a little mark on it, but we'll cover that up, hopefully, with our pieces. Now, depending on your paper you chose, we'll decide whether these are going to be vertical cards or horizontal cards. So mine is going to need to go this way, both of them. And let's go ahead and adhere down the embossing pieces. Let's see if I have others, like to show a different pattern. Okay, get that centered up there. Oh, I did have this one, but it's more for vertical. The Quatrefoil 3D. That was a pretty piece. Now this one I did a decorative border again on this, but again I really like to mat these with white. I just really think it makes it pop and then leaves us room for ribbon. So this is one of the white pieces we cut earlier at the beginning of the video. Say you don't have border dies, you could just kind of tear it and give it a rough edge, something like that would look neat. But my finished size is about 3 inches, and this is by 5.5, although my embossing folder should have been 5.5 too, but it wasn't. But I think that's going to be okay. And then since it has a little bit extra, I left room for some ribbon as well. Okay, and then let's get our flowers going the right direction. And we can put these down. Okay, so that's going to be that one. And then this one, here it is. I am just going to put a piece of coordinating cardstock. So just flat. So this one's 1.5 by 5.25. So you can see you don't really need the fancy border. You can make it just as pretty with just a plain rectangle. It's 2.5. So I wanted it to have a little bigger border so that it showed up more. And you know what? Since this one has the fancy border, I think I'm going to put it on the not as textured background and put this one on the more textured one. And that is cards 10 and 11. Of course, I would put this either on dimensionals or flat, or my sentiment on dimensionals. Let me show you the ones I had finished. So this is the one with the what was that called? The celebration paper from last year. And this is one of those from the Right Word Sentiments that I really love the font and the sentiment itself on there. I think it makes a great sympathy card. And then my one with the flight and airy, I really like that sentiment. So I did the same thing, and I just did a little leaf up there. And so these I laid flat and put the sentiment on dimensionals. So that's cards 10 and 11. Okay, so I took a little minute to clean up my desk area, and now we're going to get on to cards 12 and 13. So again, we're going to use a thick white card base. Now these two cards are identical basically. You can change up the sentiments if you want to. And I have a card base with a embossing folder already layer on it. And so let's get started with this. So what you're going to need for this card is, of course, your pieces for those, your designer series paper. And then just again, to continue adding additional layers, I'm going to use a layer of white, and all the white pieces are just about 1/8 of an inch wider and taller than these pieces. And we cut those with my white cut file at the beginning of this video. So you have those, and then to bring in more layers, I'm going to do some Blackberry Bliss. And the Blackberry Bliss layers are, let me start from the 0 so I don't have to subtract, 2 5/8 by 4 1/8, which will fit across the length of our embossing folders. So those are going to get glued together. And then for the top piece, we did cut these layers, and so that's going to be for our sentiments. This is 12 and 13. And I brought in a good old goodie again from the, let me see if I, Stitch So Sweetly dies. So maybe you guys have these in your arsenal of supplies. And I can see this one has a little mark on it. Let me use a different one that I already have over here, and we'll just add another white card base to that. Happen to have several there. Okay, so other options, if you don't have these, because these have been retired for quite a while, you could always use your circle dies or any other little shaped dies. You could also use the textured note dies, which are current. So it's just to make a added layer for sentiments and decoration. So don't worry if you don't have those. You can use many dies that you may already have in your stash, because that's the whole purpose of this video. One, it's to use your designer series paper, and two, to get out some of those old goodies you had already purchased. Okay, and if you're new, then you can use all the things that I have mentioned with the alternates of new stuff. Okay, so I'm going to glue these together, and I'll speed up this video while I glue, and you guys enjoy watching me do this, okay? Okay, so now that I have all the basic layers glued down, you saw me, yes, I'm struggling using up the last bits of some bottles of glue. So I had to reach for several different ones there during my gluing. But anyway, so that is our basic card. And I'm going to put these here and these here flat, because once I decorate my sentiment label here, those will go up with dimensionals. So I don't want to do those right now because one, you can use whatever supplies and sentiments you want in this video, but let me show you my finished ones and you can get some ideas of what I did. So I just brought in some old sentiments. Now, again, I brought in these new, or I shouldn't say new, they've been around last month or so. The last quarter of Paper Pumpkin add-ons. I thought these flowers went very well with that. Okay, and then I did the same thing here, just with a different sentiment. And so you can, if you have coordinating or more cardstock you want to use, like this is the Shy Shamrock that went with this designer series paper. Those were all with that celebration paper that I've mentioned throughout the video. And then my first ones I did using the Flight and Airy. Well, I'll just leave it in my little clear plastic sleeve. I think it shows up okay without too much glare. Again, I use those same dies just with coordinating colors of Old Olive and Petal Pink and a sentiment there. So I hope you enjoy those cards. And now we're finally to our last card, number 14. So let me clean this up and we'll get started with 14. I hope you've really enjoyed all these cards. Okay, last card is going to be vertical. Okay, we have a center white piece that we cut earlier. And then I have some layered Blackberry Bliss pieces. Okay, just an 1/8 of an inch bigger at 3 1.5, because these were 1 3/8. So let's adhere those down here. No embossed piece on this one because this is going to be the star of the show. Okay, and these are going to go top to bottom. So they're both 4 1/8 inches long. Just get that centered. can't pick it up. Okay. Slide it to the bottom of my desk there to pick it up. Okay, then fill your card. Now these are going to go on the left and right side. And then before you glue your white piece down, I would make your design of whatever you want it to be. And then I do have a layer of it to go on Blackberry Bliss as well. And that kind of covers the whole card there. With just a little bit of space. If you get when you get that centered. So it does look like 3 different pieces, but I would do your sentiment and or design, whatever you want to do there to coordinate before you glue it down, because you can always cut another piece of white paper and glue that down. But here's my finished one with the celebration paper. Okay. And then here is the one with the flight and airy. I did use one of the new stamp sets there to put that flower down. I really like that. And I'm so sad that those sentiments are retiring. There's also some coordinating dies that those go to. I do have a cut file of those as well if you have that stamp set. So that's all 12 cards, or all 14 cards. I'm not going to get them all out. I will take a picture of all of them for this post. Probably since I haven't finished some of these, it'll be the picture of the previous ones that I've done. Let me switch back to myself because you're looking at a blank screen there. Okay, so I know this was a long video, everyone, but I really hope you've enjoyed this one sheet wonder. So thanks for joining me again. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'd really appreciate you if you hit that subscription button. And also, if you'd like to see that 6 sheet one sheet wonder, be sure and hit the bell when you subscribe so you get a notification, and let me know in the comments if that's something you would like to see as well. Obviously, it would just make 5 cards, so it wouldn't be quite as long. So until my next video, everyone, the best compliment you can give me actually is a thumbs up to this video. Share it with your other paper crafting friends, and of course, hit that subscription button to my YouTube channel. I think my next goal, I'm going to skip the 5,400 and reach for 5,500. So I do need like 175 of you to hit that subscription button to help me get to 5,500 YouTube subscribers. I'd be so blessed, and it would be a great birthday present to me because my birthday is Monday. So thanks again for joining me. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.